Right, well, I think that we have Sarah back on the line. Sarah, who is a Wim Hof instructor. Sarah, who hasn't had an ice bath. I mean, that is just shameful. Does it hurt
I
when you
know.
get in?
It does a little bit, but it's only short term. Pain is temporary.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're having a conversation about this idea of building tolerance around being cold because lots of us are going to be having the thermostat lower than it usually would be this year. Does the Wim Hof method, does putting yourself into cold every day, does it make a difference later in the day?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the benefits of cold exposure are that it's absolutely possible to become more resilient to the cold and be able to adjust yourself to the cold by using cold showers or ice baths or shedding a few layers and keeping that thermostat down as well.
Have you noticed at home since you've been doing this? Because I know you had a sort of high profile, quite stressful career. You then changed and brought this on to sort of help your mind and your body. Have you noticed through doing the Wim Hof cold therapy that you actually don't need things to be quite as warm as they used to be?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, a few years ago, before I started doing the method, I would be someone who said they were always cold. I'd be wrapped up in a million layers, shivering away, and thinking it was the worst thing on earth. And then this morning, I've been outside all morning, and it's not a cold day, but it's also not warm, and I've just been in a t-shirt and absolutely felt fine. So yeah, it's definitely possible to build your cold tolerance.
And so that is literally down to every morning having a shower. I mean, how do you even go about having and building a cold shower into your life?
Yes, you can do it. You can do it a few ways. You don't even need to do it every day with the cold shower. The benefits of cold exposure last about 6 days. So even if you're doing it a couple of times a week and just ending your showers with 15 seconds of cold water, that can really be the beginning to start building up your cold tolerance.
Well, what does it do then to your body, to your cells?
Yeah, so it's a form of stress. Basically, you're putting your body in a stressful situation, and you're then able to adapt to it. So with the invention of kind of heating and air conditioning, our bodies have kind of forgotten how to keep ourselves warm and how to cool ourselves down. And what we're doing using extreme cold with the Wim Hof method is teaching ourselves how to warm ourselves up and be okay with a cold temperature, because the cold is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just our interpretation of it. It's just a sensation, and it's normally a temporary one as well.
Well, because I mean, I've looked into this. I've done a course as well, and I know that there are people with like autoimmune illnesses. So people that you wouldn't expect to be doing things like this that seem quite extreme, that are actually saying that their whole life is kind of like turned around.
Yeah, absolutely. And people who suffer with, things like Raynaud's disease, which is when, you have poor circulation in your hands and feet, actually benefit from cold exposure. So controlled and gradual cold exposure can help things like Raynaud's, even things like arthritis, which you would think that the cold would be really bad for. If you do it really carefully and kind of with supervision and doing it in the right way, you can absolutely improve your condition and lessen the symptoms by kind of getting more cold in your life.
I mean, that is the point, isn't it? It's not just sort of like randomly doing it unless you know that you're sort of super fit and everything's okay. It is kind of like either asking the doctor, perhaps, I don't know, or diving into a course and getting an understanding of how to do it, right?
Yeah, for sure. So for most people who are, healthy without any kind of serious heart conditions and things like that, then it's safe to kind of start building up just using cold water in your shower. But if you're thinking about going into the ice or going, say, into the sea or a lake in the middle of winter, and you're, concerned about any kind of facet of your health, I'd definitely say, go and see your GP or tell them what you're planning and get kind of signed off for that before you do it, and just always do it gradually. But yeah, of course, is a great place to start.
What does your like mum and dad or your grandparents say? I mean, have you persuaded them?
Not quite. I think I'm getting there. When I first became an instructor, they thought I joined a cult, if I'm honest. But they're slowly kind of coming around to the idea, and now they want to come to a workshop, which is hilarious because they're all sold out. So I'm trying to find them a space so they can come too.
Yeah, because the thing with the workshop is it's not just about the cold therapy, it's also about the understanding of the breathing, because I think one of the other ideas around this is that it can actually, is it lower your heart rate? Is that lower your blood pressure? What is it that it does?
Yeah, yes, you learn to control how you're feeling using your breath. So yeah, the cold is just one pillar of the method. The other two are breathing and mindset. So in a workshop you cover all three of those, and the whole workshop's really gearing up to doing an ice bath, which is exactly what 12 participants have just done this morning.
On the BBC, because Wim Hof had a series, didn't he? He had some celebrities on and they went through the paces. When you sort of replicate that into the workshops that you do you find that when people are lying down doing the breathing, what we noticed in the show and with Wim is that people had very different experiences while they were doing the breathing. And in fact, a couple of them, I can't remember, one of them was a sports journalist. She couldn't stop crying. She had this over emotional response to it that she just sort of burst into floods of tears. Does that happen in your workshops?
Yeah, it happens really, very, very often. I think it's always a really great thing. It's better out than in. And I like to give people the opportunity to kind of process those types of emotions, whatever they've been through, and be able to let them out in a kind of a safe space.
Why does it happen, though, with the breathing?
I think sometimes it's just having that time for yourself, having that time just to focus on you and being in that moment. That sometimes elicits those emotions and gives you a chance to kind of start to process them. With our really busy lives, it's so easy to be distracted and to not give yourself a chance to kind of work through some difficult stuff. And I think when you come to a workshop, you're immersed in nature, you're within a group, and it's the perfect place to do that.
It is a beautiful thing, isn't it? There's something very different about doing something one-to-one and something very different about doing it in a group environment.
Yeah, of course. And I think, the power of the group, even though, you're arriving as strangers, people leaving as friends and switching numbers and wanting to kind of come back and connect with people. And I think since the pandemic, really, it just feels so much more important to a lot of people. And for me as well, I love working with people. So having the luxury of face-to-face kind of contact is just brilliant and is a completely different dimension to doing something by yourself or online.
All right, Sarah, look, I mean, I know you've said that all the workshops are sold out, but I'm sure that some more will pop up along the way. I'll point everybody to your website. So thank you so much for coming on. And as Sarah was saying, this is a way, potentially, if you do put yourself in front of some cold once or twice a week, that could potentially change how you are in your home when the thermostat is a little bit lower. sarahhuntley.com. Lots of information about her. And suddenly, you hear through the voice, don't you? That sort of joy, that positivity, that, I'm loving living. And that is always a beautiful place to be living in. Take a look at her website, find out a little bit more about the Wim Hof method. And